Hello everyone, this is Justin from Black Module Studio. I'm bringing you guys a new tutorial series. This is just going to be an intro to programming using Java. And this specific episode, this initial episode, I'm not going to do what a lot of people do and go through, tell you how to download NetBeans and get the JDK and everything like that. I'm going to assume that you've already done that. But I'm not going to assume any prior programming experience. So if you need help getting NetBeans or Eclipse or some other IDE, or downloading or installing the JDK, there are lots of tutorials for that. I'm sure you guys know how to use Google or YouTube. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into this. In this first tutorial, I'm going to go over doing a simple Hello World program, and I might touch on a few other things like variables or whatnot. So I'll go and right-click my source package, and we will add a class. I will call it main. Finish. Alright, so we have our public class main. This is essentially this is our program. Now, more complicated programs can have different classes, multiple classes, but for this, our entire program is essentially wrapped in this one class. So, now in Java as well as other languages, you generally need a main function, and that's basically to signify the beginning or entry point into your program. So when you have multiple files, multiple classes, your program needs to know where to start. So that is the main function. So I'm going to go ahead and start it right here. So we'll say public static void main, and the main function is going to take a string of args. Alright, so now within here we can go ahead and start actually writing our program. So for the simplest example that we can do is just a very basic Hello World program, and that's just a program that will print the text Hello World to the console. So the way to do that is system.out.println, and it's a function, and within that function it takes a string. So we will say hello world exclamation point. Go ahead and save that, and now when I run it, what it's going to do is, since this is the main function, it's going to be the first thing that runs, and it's going to go through here, and our only command is to print this line, this text out to the console. So when I hit run, we're going to go and see that here right there, hello world. So we've run it, prints out hello world, and that's it. The program ends. Obviously it's not very useful. It's fairly pointless, or it may seem fairly pointless right now, but this is just to get you going. It's just so you can literally actually write a program. So I could stop here, but it'd be a very short video, so I will go ahead and jump into variables, and I'll try to explain them in layman's terms and not be too technical with them. But unfortunately with programming, it's very technical, so yeah. Essentially, variables are basically containers to hold data, and that data can come in different forms. So you have different what's called data types. So, for instance, if we want to hold a string, we would create a variable that is a string. So we list the data type, and then we give it a name, and I will say my string. Right, and then so I could go like that, and now I've declared my variable my string. Now it's empty because I've not actually given it a value. So what I'll do is I'll say equals, and then I will go ahead and actually put in hello world, and that is our string. Here I'm gonna actually put it up here. So right there we have a variable. It's data type. This tells this tells our computer, our program, what type of data is expected in this variable, our myString variable. And then after the equal sign, the right hand side of the equal sign literally says alright, this is what I want to put into that. Now we can what's called reassign the value in this variable. It's not a constant, it is a variable, therefore it can change. So later on in our program we could say my string equals foo, and then my string would then hold the value foo. So to illustrate that point, first off, I'd like to just show you what it can be used for. So since this is a string and this function expects a string, we can literally paste that in there, and it'll do the exact same thing. It'll say hello world. But just to show you guys, there we go, hello world. So now what we can do to show that it is not constant, we can say my string equals foo, and then we can again say system.out.println my string. And now what's going to happen is we're going to print out hello world of the console, and then we're going to change the value of my string to foo, and then we're going to print it out again. So we'll see hello world, and then we'll see foo. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Hello world, foo. So that's kind of the basics of a string. We have other data types as well. We have, let's see, I guess a basic one, just we'll go over numbers. We have integers. For that we use the keyword int, int. So we'll say int my int equals 5. Now we have an integer value of 5. We'll go ahead and print that out to the console. There we go. So we see the number 5. Println. Java is not my first language, but I do believe that println will take numbers and automatically convert them to a string so that we can actually output it to the console, which is why that works. So we have my int, and then what we can do is we can do operations on these variables, and that becomes very useful. But what I'll do first is I'll show you a couple other data types. So we have the integer, we have what's called a float, and that's a floating point number. Essentially it's a number with a decimal, because as I'm sure you guys are aware, an integer is a what most people call a whole number, and a float is a number with a decimal. So we can say my float equals 2.25, so 2 1/4. Oh, F, there we go. We're going to indicate that it's a float with that F at the end of it. If we didn't have the F, it's what's called a double, and since we're trying to set a float equal to a double, it doesn't work. That's why it's errored out like that. So it's a float. And then of course we have our double. That's a double precision floating point number. Essentially it's a more precise decimal number, so you can have several digits after the decimal. So we'll say my double equals we'll do a different number, 0.125. So you notice right here we don't have anything after it. That indicates that it's a double. And then on this line we have to put the F after it. That indicates it's a float. So now what we can do though, now that we have these different data types, we can do different operations on them. So let's create another integer. We'll say my other int. Actually, just to make this simple, this will be B and this will be A. And we'll set B equal to 2. Then what we can do is we can perform operations on it. What I mean by operations are just your simple, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, operations like that. So what we'll do is we'll say A plus B. So we're going to print out what A plus B evaluates to. So 5 plus 2 is 7, therefore we're going to print out 7. We're not going to print out 5, and we're not going to print out 2. We're just going to print out what this evaluates to. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run. There we go, 7. So it's fairly simple, and that's I guess the basics of our initial Hello World program probably all I'm going to do for this video. So if you have any questions, feel free to go and ask in the comments, and I will hopefully be able to push this tutorial series out at a decent pace. So go ahead and leave a like if you like, and if you have any suggestions or specific questions, like I said, please let me know in the comments. Alright, thanks. Bye.